All right, good evening, everyone. Welcome to our December working meeting. So in case you're not familiar with the working meeting, it's just for the council to conduct its business, so there's no good and welfare, no public input. This is just, you can basically listen to us talking about the topics we're going to talk about tonight. I guess John's got an update for us.
Sure. Just a very brief update before the real substance of the evening comes into play. Tomorrow morning at 10 a.m., the city's selection committee is going to be interviewing the lone respondent that we had for Central Business District parking meters. So I know this is a topic of great interest to the council and the public writ large. Although it was one respondent, it is the worldwide leader in parking solutions. These are a behemoth. They do New York City, every major city under the sun, every major university under the sun utilize this vendor. So we will update you after we meet with them and interview them tomorrow. But just wanted to keep you updated on it.
Thank you.
All right, thank you. I guess next we're going to talk about beach revenue for the summer. And I guess we're going to have a presentation. You going to move that?
Good evening. Good evening.
Good evening.
I think that the council has printed versions of this presentation. Otherwise, if you want to see it on a big screen. Okay. Okay. Hi. I'm putting a slide clicker into next year's capital budget. Yeah. Already? Yay. Okay, so this is City of Long Beach Ocean Park Revenue Summer 2021 analysis. This analysis covers revenue received during summer 2021, the season that ran from the Memorial Day weekend all the way through the Labor Day weekend. The period from the Memorial Day until June 30th, 2021, fell in city's fiscal year 2021, and period from July 1st through the end of Labor Day weekend fell in city's fiscal year 2022. That's how every summer is. It gets allocated to 2 fiscal years. This analysis is prepared based on the numbers of tickets sold in each category. Information is provided by the Ocean Beach Park. I mean, the total revenue is reconciled to the cash received, but as per category, data is provided by the Ocean Beach Park. So next slide, yeah, great. Some of the ticket categories listed in the following slides are not intuitive, and I will ask Joe to please come join me here and go over these categories in a greater detail, so take the mystery out of this.
All right, real simply, the top item that you see there is auxiliary police, Nevada Street, and the Long Beach Volunteer Fire Department. These are passes issued at no charge to the auxiliaries, the firefighters, and those residents on Nevada Street south of Park Avenue. Self-explanatory. Child with family passes are the passes issued to children as part of the Family Beach Pass package. Comp Child are those children passes issued to the top item there, auxiliary police, Nevada, and volunteers. An access pass is an individual pass for those with a physical disability. The military pass, self-explanatory, an individual pass for those who currently serve or who have served within the United States Armed Services. Special use pass, our pass is issued free of charge for special events for which they've secured beach access through our permitting department. And then the hotel season, our passes for each of the 2 hotels in town at resident rates, and they're based primarily on the occupancy of each hotel.
Thank you. Okay, so for the next 5-6 slides, this is just presentation of how my department analyzed the sales during summer 2021 and compared by category to the previous years, right? So in summer of 2021, City Beach Park sold total of 128,290 tickets, individual tickets. When I'm saying individual, where you see resident family 22,430, it's a one resident pass. So it shows price per ticket in the 3rd column from the left. Total revenue of $4 million, a little bit over $4 million collected during that year, that summer. And it shows also how many tickets were sold in 2020, which was a year and a summer and a beach season that was severely impacted by COVID. And then the most recent pre-COVID year was 2019. In summer of 2019, total tickets sold were 203, almost 204,000 tickets. Prices were lower than those in 2021. As you know, we've increased the prices, but still revenue realized was more by almost $300,000, a little over $300,000. So what happened? We sold about 75,000 less tickets. As you see, most of the numbers in the right column are all red, meaning that that's a negative variance, and the highest variance is in non-residents daily and railroad sales. Next slide, please. So this particular slide has 2 parts to it. First part is, let's see which months had we collected, how much we collected in revenue in each of the months that beach season covers, right? So we start in May, end up in September. How did we do? Well, we, again, didn't do great. If you will look at 2019, you could see that just by estimating, you could tell that, hey, we're probably, where the fiscal years split, right? So May and June is one fiscal year, July, August, September is another one. So for 2019, you could see that it's about the same breakdown between the fiscal years. And for the May and June, you would see it's like $2.3 million. It's 1.4 plus 848. It's $2.3 million. And then for the rest of that summer, City sold about $2 million worth of tickets. Well, in 2021, we sold $2.9 million worth of tickets in May and June, almost 2.9, but only $1.1 million for the rest of the summer, for the months that fell in fiscal 2022. As you saw, we had the culprit of that was pretty much identified on a previous slide, the non-resident daily passes. So, well, we said, let's analyze those further and see how we did with those sales for the non-resident daily tickets on a month-by-month basis. Where it doesn't have a month, it means May. So it's May, June, July, August, September. Pretty obvious that we did really bad in May, July, and August as compared to, in 2021, as compared to 2019. Next slide, Dave. So the previous slide dealt with dollars and the numbers of tickets sold. This one incorporates percentages. And as you could see, I highlighted in red the two major contributors to the beach revenue. It's the resident family passes sale and the non-resident daily ticket sale. As you see, it's almost the percentages in 2021. The resident family sales contributed 50% towards the bottom line, while non-resident daily contributed 30%. Back in 2019, it was reversed, basically. Resident family contributed 30%, while non-resident daily contributed almost 47%. Next slide. So this one basically the extension of the previous theme where I said, well, now let's look at all the resident derived revenue versus all non-resident derived revenue from all the categories. And you could see that it's the same, basically the same reversal, but that is to be expected because other categories are not really material here. So next slide, Dave. Okay. So period from Memorial Day until June 30th, 2021 falls in the city fiscal year 2021. During summer 2021, city collected about $2.9 million against budgeted about 2.7. If you are interested how we did in 2021 in beach revenue, we're actually over $200 over the budget. Okay, so we met and exceeded budget in 2021. Period from July 1st until end of Labor Day weekend falls in the city's fiscal year 2022. During summer 2021, we collected $1,145,225 against the budgeted estimate of about $2.4 million. So that's negative estimate of, that's a negative variance of approximately $1.2 million. Total beach park revenue budget for 2022 is $5.1 million, as compared to estimated cost of running beach park for the summer of $5.6 million. So when we were hoping and praying and incorporating 2019 attendance numbers into the 2022 budget, we still wouldn't break even. We were getting closer, but it's more expensive to run the beach, even with all the increases. And even if we had a perfect weather and perfect attendance, then it would what it cost the city. I'm relatively new to the city, but I've heard even before I started to work here that the beach is a money maker for the city. And I can tell you that I analyzed this going 7 years back, and in none of the years the city would break even. It's more expensive to run the beach than it is than the revenue that we collect. On average, we average about $4 million in revenue. I analyzed it all the way back to 2015. And like I said, it's expensive and getting only more expensive because of, well, one of the components would be our lifeguards contract is expiring. So their salaries are going to be increased. Next, I'm sorry, no, go back. Thank you. So based on above points, city will need to sell almost $4 million in beach passes by June 30th, 2022 to meet 2022 budgeted revenue. That's if we want to meet the budget. In order to meet 2022 beach park revenue budget and realize this $3,970,939 number, city has two choices. Either sell many more tickets or increase the price once again. So this is a little bit of the algebra. I'll try to explain it to you. I don't know how much you're gonna like it, but here I go. I said, well, if we want to find out how many tickets we want to sell, right? We will need to sell to make this $3.9 million in each category, right? Then let's do this simple ratio. If, for example, the resident individual sold in 5th column from the left that says revenue received for 6/30/2021. That first number in the first row is 25,830 tickets. So I said, well, if 25,830 of resident individual tickets were sold to generate 2.873 million, then how many we would need to sell to make 3.97 million. And that's the formula that was used there. So basically that's the math behind it, right? So that's now is broken down by the category based on the ratios that we observed during last summer. Then I said, well, if we need to sell $35,701 worth of the resident individual tickets, right? How many tickets would that be? And that would be 510 tickets compared to 369 tickets sold through 6/30/2021. So that we would have to sell 141 more season resident individual passes in 2022 in this summer, right? May and June, than we did last summer, 2021. So,
Two adult tickets and passes for any of your children that reside in your house between the ages of 13 and 17.
and under 13 is free. Okay, so basically, the moral of the story is that we will need to sell a lot more resident family, resident senior, and non-resident daily tickets this fiscal year than we did in the past. 8,000. You You can go back, Dave, if you want to. Still in the previous slide. Yeah, 8,000 more resident family season passes, 2,000 more resident senior passes, and 8,598 more non-resident daily passes. Now you can go to the next slide. Okay, great. So then I said, well, I don't really know of a good way that we can sell more passes at the same price, right? So why don't we also look into how do we need to increase the price to get closer to where we budgeted this revenue? And here you could see that it's, I'm not proposing this prices, I'm just demonstrating that those prices in a column, that's the second to the right column, would bring us much closer if we were to maintain summer 2021 sales volume to where we need to be on a budget. And that's basically my story. Obviously, that has an impact on a 2023 budget, on which we're starting to work on revenue in a minute now. And that budget is going to be proposed in April. So I would rely on 2021 numbers, right? So I would not, in a good conscience, I would not be able to now use the 2019 sales volume to project the overall beach revenue for 2023. Just in general also, I like to make a point that, you know, analyzing it all the way back, this revenue, there are two things that I observed. Obviously, beach revenue for the most years fell on average $500,000 under the budget. So what does that do? That depletes your fund balance, right? You have a couple of years like that and you're down $2 million. Another thing that I observed is that the daily non-resident sales are weather-based, right? So we're basically, you know, building about $2 million worth of revenue in our budget based on gambling that the weather is going to be perfect. Every weekend is going to be nice. And that's, I would say, like, that might have been an okay approach if city had reasonable fund balance. If we had $20, $30 million in a fund balance or 10, we would say, you know what, one summer is not going to kill us, right? But based on where we are, and beach park revenue contributed really heavily towards where we are, that budgeting contributed towards it. I thought that maybe I'll bring it up. So with that said, I will then, without further ado,
Thank you, Ina. And thank you for putting together such a deep analysis. I'd also like to just publicly thank the members of the Beach Park staff, particularly Nicole Barnes and Monica Rupe, who supplied all the information to put these reports together. Prior to last year's analysis, I think it was either President Bendo or Vice President McGinnis asked the question, when was the last time an analysis of what it actually cost to run the beach was put together? I wasn't here for the time period between 2012 and 2018, So I was reluctant to try and answer that question. But what I will say is, based on a lot of the information and conversation that Ina and I have had, in 2004, as the Ocean Beach Park manager, then City Manager Glenn Spiritus asked me to put one together for him in a report and summarize what it does cost to run the beach. And full disclosure, I'm not an accountant, nor did I possess the information technology that's available today. And even if I did, or if I had, I certainly couldn't have put something together like Ina just put together now. But all that said, at the end of the day, when I sat in his office and presented the numbers, and when you start talking about how much it costs to dump the garbage, beach maintenance, sanitation, lifeguards, the Ocean Beach Park staff, and you started to add up all of the, like, what we called ancillary costs that a lot of people don't think about, we weren't coming close, and the beach was losing money. With that, like I said, you know, the city's ATM, as some people like to call it, looks a little bit less impressive when you start realizing that the costs far outweigh what we're taking in. Again, here tonight, I'm here to kind of discuss some of the qualitative points and lend some support or backup to the information that Ina presented today. I'll break it down into three categories: its variables, its challenges, its opportunities. Again, moments ago I mentioned my shortcomings in the field of accounting. Where I lack there, I do have a tremendous amount of experience of operating business here in town, and I can speak firsthand to the animal that is the seasonal business and trying to make a living in what we call, 3 months of hurry and 9 months of worry. So with that, Donna and this administration are on the record that they want their department heads to run this city like a business, and not all departments can be run at an even, much less a profit. But the beach is something that we do believe should at the very least break even, and we're going to take the necessary steps to see that that happens. Let's first look back at some of the variables that have put us in the position of where we are now and the deficit that we're in. Anybody that owns a business here in town that relies on beach foot traffic will tell you, you pray every day to the weather gods that you're going to get weather, and particularly you're going to get it on Friday, Saturday, Sunday, and Monday. We'll go into a discussion more so about non-resident daily passes. As we said before, the seasonal passes, you can kind of write it in with what you're going to take in. The non-resident daily passes, people wait for that day, they come to the beach. It's worth the price of admission, and they're here. I don't envision somebody like Eileen Hessian sitting with a farmer's almanac and calculating what she thinks the nice days of the years are going to be and whether or not it's worth buying a seasonal beach pass. To say from a supply and demand perspective that we want to take the demand and place it on the shoulders of the residents, I don't know that to be the case, but what we want to look for is some type of happy medium where we know what we can anticipate, we know what we can offer to our residents, and not rely solely on the crapshoot of where the daily passes will land us. The weather is the greatest variable. I said that, and when we talk about the weather, the three main variables we talk about are what we call the big three, the weekends, and then the dog days of summer. So the big three are Memorial Day weekend, 4th of July weekend, and Labor Day weekend. 2021, the total of non-resident daily passes sold on the big three came out to about $141,000. By comparison, 2019, that total was $534,000. The difference, self-explanatory right there, but lending credence to what Ina also touched on there. In years past, I know that those numbers don't even reflect how much optimism is placed in the budget, where I've seen upwards of $200,000 to $250,000 geared towards each of those weekends and non-resident daily pails. Optimistic, yeah. Realistic, that's to be debatable. The weekends, I'm going to run through them quickly, just to give you an idea of what the weather has to do with where we stand, and I'll read through them. There's 12 of them: 124,000, 13,000, 45,000, 44,000, 32,000, 41,000, 66,000, 55,000, 30,000, 68,000, 6,000, and 9,000. Those numbers are rounded, but it gives you a pretty good idea, from the highest being 124,000 and the lowest being 6,000. Next to every chart that we keep at the beach park, there's a column for the weather. And when you next to the column and you've got June 5th and 6th, and you did $124,000 in non-resident daily beach park sales, you can bet that the weather's going to say sunny, hot, beautiful. Okay? Go down further to that 6,000, August 21st and August 22nd, and you're going to see cloudy, rain, closed because of Hurricane Henri. So there's the top of the barrel to the bottom of the barrel in terms of the weather. In between there, you've got partly sunny, partly cloudy. We live and die by the forecast oftentimes, but to put it, I guess, in layman's terms, the difference between hot and sunny and partly cloudy or partly sunny is about $80,000 in a weekend. So to say that the weather doesn't have an impact on this, or isn't the main impact as to why we're in the position we're in, it would be naive. Break it down even further, 24 days that I spoke of, those weekend days, aside from the holiday weekends, you had 5 days of sunny, hot, and beautiful. 9 days of $10,000 or less in non-resident daily pass sales, and 10 days of partly cloudy, partly sunny, below average, or more importantly, I guess what you would say below expectation in terms of meeting a budget projection. The dog days of summer, where we make a lot of money, is when the weather is so oppressive that people, if you're not inside in air conditioning, the only place you can be is sitting on the shore. And that doesn't just go for all the people that live in Long Beach, because you can watch a train on a Tuesday or Wednesday afternoon when it's 95 and humid in Manhattan, and it looks like a Saturday or Sunday with people coming off the beach. And to that end, just in terms of our weather reports and where we experienced that, and I think everybody here remembers the summer well enough alone, we had one day like that in July and 1 3-day stretch like that in August. Certainly not enough to pick up the slack for that Monday through Friday business that we hope for. Not to mention Hurricane Henri. It's the first time that I've ever had to completely close the Ocean Beach Park for more than 1 day, remove all equipment, remove all personnel. I don't have to go through it. I mean, Commissioner Walsh, we went through it. Chief Gillespie and I, Donna, what was safe for our employees and safe for our equipment was the same for everybody else. And everybody came off the beach, and the entire Ocean Beach Park was closed. Beyond the weather, COVID. Last April and May, we were still awaiting direction from the state with regard to capacity and how many people we were going to be able to allow on the beach. I mean, go back to the summer before with the 50% and this percent and that percent. It really didn't become clear until May what the restrictions were going to be. We began with no restrictions, but I think the hangover from COVID certainly took its toll on us. I mean, people were accustomed to beach closures. People were accustomed to non-residents not being allowed. There was ambiguity with whether or not was Long Beach open or was Long Beach closed. So I don't think that helped us in terms of getting off to the start we wanted to get, particularly with the Long Island Railroad. We began negotiations on the railroad contract in April, but we didn't know if we were going to be able to honor it. Their lead time to establish the getaway package and program it and make it available to their customers is a couple of months out. So, we made the decision to schedule the start of the getaway package for July 1st and hope that by July 1st we were still in a pattern where there were no restrictions, the beach was still open, and we can then offer it to the people from Manhattan to come here, or from the city to come here at a discount. The numbers for the railroads, I don't have to tell you. You're talking about an average of better than $350,000 a summer compared to, I think, somewhere around $69,000 this past summer. The late start was one thing, but I think what also happens is there's a familiarity factor and the establishment of an early rhythm where people get used to a routine of the weekends here, I'm getting on the train, I'm going to Long Beach. And I think what may have happened in that period of time, not only through the entire 2020 summer, but at least to start 2021, there was some residual effects on people deciding whether they were going to come here or just decide to go elsewhere. And the last variable, advertising. The first advertisement that we were open for business for everybody was on May 21st. That's 1 week before Memorial Day weekend. Certainly not the aggressive ad campaign that we would normally take, in order to encourage people to get here. Pardon me 1 second here. All right, challenges. You see some of the buzzwords up there. Competition would be the first one. When we weren't open, I'd hate to think that anybody's naive enough to say that people didn't go elsewhere. Maybe they've discovered somebody else. I mentioned my experience in the business world, and at times that I would say to myself, I'd love to close 1 day a week, but then I was always worried that my customers would go somewhere else and I wouldn't see them again because they found someplace else that was either as competitive to the product that I was giving them or gave them another reason. No different here. Did they find someplace where there's better parking? Did they find someplace that's cheaper? Hey, I didn't realize I was a Town of Hempstead resident and I could get in for $10 with a whole car. Or I'm not a resident and it's $40, but I got 6 people in the car. So, I mean, you can see where, as much as we like to say, we're the best game in town, there are other games and beauty's in the eye of the beholder. Throw into that, just to our west, Far Rockaway, the city beaches are free. And anybody that thinks Far Rockaway is the Far Rockaway that many of us remember, they're mistaken. It's turned around. It's become kind of one of the next flourishing community in New York City, and they've got a popular beach community that's going now that it's certainly lending some competition to us. I truly believe that. Rising costs. Ina touched on the lifeguard contract, which is Rich Barrios was nice enough to explain yesterday, is moving along very nicely. It's just a question of getting the numbers in place for what their increases will be. Thankfully, with regard to the lifeguards, we recently had a sizable donation that was able to take on what would have been some expensive operational costs. And I met with Chief Gillespie this morning. We were talking about things like 24 new umbrellas, 24 brand new chairs for each of the beaches, 3 emergency response gators, something that we needed desperately, smaller, much more efficient vehicles that can get around and provide a little bit more extended medical services than a response crew on the back of a pickup truck. We spoke about cameras and we spoke about communication. There's a lot of good stuff that money's getting put towards and saving the city a lot of money. Connectivity issues. If you've ever tried to make a phone call at the beach, send a text, or you bring your laptop down there, you're no stranger to the fact that it's difficult. and difficult, putting it mildly. From our perspective, we have cashiers throughout the city of Long Beach, and all of them have credit card machines that, to say their connectivity is at some points impossible, to the point where you're turning customers away, sending them to ATMs. But we are working to improve the Wi-Fi service up there. We're hoping that there's some grant funding available that we can get put in place to kind of alleviate some of those issues. The last challenge is something just more of a personal thing with me, but and not something that really affects in a big way the bottom line of the beach park, but people profiting from using the beach facility. You know, like any other facility that the city owns, people are required to file for a permit, required to provide insurance, and pay their fair share for the use of the facility. No different. Well, I'm getting to that. The big events and the you know, the beach volleyball leagues and stuff like that go on, and some of the college groups that come down here and work out, yes, those people are paying. But if you've been on the boardwalk or the beach before 9 a.m. or after 6 p.m., you'll notice that there's a lot of groups that do, whether it's a beach yoga class or a beach soccer clinic, or, I mean, the list goes on and on. Most of them are exercise and, you know, trainer and client-based. We overlooked a lot of it during the 2020 summer because of COVID and the cries of some of the gym owners that their gym space was closed. And, you know, as sympathetic as we could be, I think we were lenient in the fact that we were allowing people, you know, particularly those that may have a gym on Park Avenue or within the city limits, to run a class or have a small group of people on the beach to do a workout with, to try and make a few bucks to earn a living. That summer's over, and if you go on the beach, you'll see there's operations going on. There's people that are advertising and hosting classes, and again, it becomes an issue of having enough people on staff to police it and to enforce it. So it's a challenge that I've had a lot of conversation with Donna about, conversation that I've had with Commissioner Walsh about, and, you know, between us, we're going to look to, you know, first to reach out and let people know that, number one, that it does require a permit, because I think some people may be misinformed, and they don't know that they need to apply and for any use of facility provide insurance. So we'll try it the way it should be done, you know, by reaching out to people or advertising on the city website and so forth. That if you would like to do it, that's all well and good, but it's something that has to be permitted and has to be to the knowledge of the city. The last one is personnel, you know, and particularly within the Ocean Beach Park. You know, one of the challenges is finding personnel that will care enough to make sure that people are, in fact, carrying a pass to get on the beach. We've got a very young staff, very low-paid staff, that, again, myself and Ina and the management team at the Ocean Beach Park are trying to put together ideas of how we can save enough money within our budget to kind of increase the rate of pay, where we can attract a little bit more qualified and a little bit more caring, you know, employee. So we're working on that. I'm going to touch on electronic beach passes in a minute, but I think that might be the one way that we can probably try and eliminate some of the personnel costs within the beach park. And with that, I'll go to opportunities. Opportunities. The first opportunity is, you know, turn on the news right now. At our executive meeting yesterday, it was the first thing that I, you know, relayed to Donna and our team. In my industry, this talk of Omicron and COVID, we've all read this magazine once before, and I get nervous that relatively soon, there is going to be some type of restriction, be it on gyms, swimming pools, beach capacity. I don't want to live it. I pray to God that we don't have to do it, but the greatest opportunity that we own is that between now and Memorial Day, there are no restrictions to speak of and nothing to worry about in terms of us proceeding business as usual, because the last 2 summers have been anything but proceeding business as usual. Our ability to advertise aggressively, our ability to work with the Chamber of Commerce, to promote ways to get people here, not only to go to our beach, but to frequent our businesses and take advantage of everything Long Beach has to offer. With that would also be a quick start with the Long Island Railroad. The nice thing about the MTA, the railroad, they do the most aggressive campaigns. They pay for it. It doesn't cost us anything. All we have to do is give them information, give them the promise early in the game that they can get people here, and the people, once they get here, they'll be able to utilize all of the amenities that we offer. It makes an unmeasurable difference in terms of getting the summer off to a good start. Electronic beach passes. I think herein lies our greatest opportunity. We just completed year 1. I've said it before, not without its bumps and bruises. But the truth of the matter is it's off the ground now. We're at a starting point for year 2 where we have, I think, between 5 and 7 sticking points that we're going to work our way through that should work out a lot of the kinks that we encountered last summer. The year 2 goal is basically how do we make this thing our steering wheel in terms of communication, in terms of advertising, or perhaps maybe even a revenue stream. Like I said, we did $435,000 in sales in year 1. More than half of that was in non-resident daily passes. I think that's where the teeth of this electronic beach pass lies. The daily pass is app-based as opposed to web-based. It's a much easier application. I've also had conversations with USC Direct. We're going to start a lot earlier this year than we were last year. And we've also had conversation internally about somebody from our IT department joining our beach park staff on almost a full-time basis just to handle the electronic beach pass portion of the operation. What we found last year was the amount of time that it actually pulls members of our management team away from running the day-to-day operations and puts them in front of a computer screen answering questions and approving downloaded forms and proofs of residency and stuff, and then more importantly solving the problems when somebody downloads something and it doesn't go through, and then getting on the phone with Mrs. Hessian and explaining to her why her child passes didn't get downloaded. It was look, like anything else, it wasn't. It was a new application. The fact that it's off the ground is something that we're extremely proud of, but there's plenty of room for improvement, and I think something that, particularly with the non-resident daily pass sales, that we can take advantage of, an audience that we're certainly looking to improve the numbers with. And then the last opportunity, like Ina said, realistic, honest budgeting approach. Non-resident daily passes to me are like one-shot revenue streams. You can't rely on them long term. Again, you said gamble. I used crapshoot. To build a number into a budget with that many variables, I think is something that we have to be careful about. At the end of the day, it'll be up to Ina, Donna, and I to figure out what where that happy medium is, where how far we can get with season pass sales, that we know the daily passes are going to be an attainable goal, and at least break us even. And if it is the greatest summer ever, and after the last two we deserve one, we might even make a few dollars. So with that, I think that's it. And Mr. McNally asked me to remind everybody that this presentation will be up on the city's website tomorrow.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
All right, so it seems like our perceived cash cow is really a pig in disguise. So
That's an excellent description.
I went and pulled up a bunch of weather data for this past summer, because if you look at the average temperature and rainfall overall for the summer, it actually was a pretty normal summer. It turns out it's when it happened. So Memorial Day weekend, it was in the 50s and raining Memorial Day weekend. That should have been one of our biggest weekends. In June, it rained 3 weekends. In July, it rained 4 weekends. In August, it rained every weekend. And Memorial Day weekend, it didn't rain, but it was only in the 70s. I'm sorry, Labor Day weekend. It didn't rain, but it was only in the 70s. So to the point of, even though it might have been overall an average summer weather-wise, it happened on the days when we tend to generate most of our revenue at the beach. So obviously we're very weather dependent. The question was, what kind of flexibility do we have in our operations to adjust to that? In other words, obviously we have to have X number of lifeguards on, but if it's raining out, do we have to keep all the lifeguards? Do they get paid? I mean, granted, their paychecks shouldn't necessarily be weather dependent either, I guess. But how do we adjust operations on rainy days to cut costs? And I'm not sure who the right person is to answer that. I don't know if that's you, Joe?
I'll start off by saying that the lifeguards, based on their contract that's been negotiated, so that to have them not work is something that has to be negotiated.
Oh, I understand that, right. And we're doing that
No.
in negotiations with them now.
We've looked at a lot of different factors. I think Joe, Rich, and Ina and I have looked at a lot of different factors on what can make a difference. And so we're looking at what is the very bare minimum that we need, and what will it take for us to break even. That's going to take another meeting for us.
To that point, I was going to ask, what does it cost to run the beach on a weekend day, and what does it cost on a weekday? Because you brought up the great points about how much revenue we get on a weekend, but I don't know how much it costs to run the beach. And then I guess what it costs on a day is not really elastic, right? It's not going to go from to cost $10,000 a day to $100,000. It's really going to be like
It's going to be close to
minimal.
the same.
Yes.
It's going to be close to the same.
it's like almost
Yeah.
a fixed cost.
Absolutely.
But so it would be interesting to get that, to start to do that additional analysis in addition to the great analysis that's already been done.
But on the weekends, don't you have more, there's more work, there's more garbage?
Exactly.
Does that go into overtime?
Well,
versus-
I mean, traditionally whether it's the beach park, beach maintenance, police specials, all of our base schedules are predicated on every weekend being sunny. You know, what the additional cashiers that I have to bring in, or the additional ticket takers that I have to bring in to man the booths from, say, Lafayette to Long Beach Boulevard, rather than having, like you would say, on a Monday through Friday, where there may be one cashier, one ticket taker. If that ticket taker doesn't show up, the cashier can serve in a dual role, something to that effect. But you're saving, I hate to say saving pennies, but every little bit counts, I get it. But the problem is if you try to scale back your staffing to a point where you say, well, maybe it's not going to be that nice this weekend, well, what happens then? Then you get killed, and the weather's beautiful, and you get overrun, and literally
upset.
people walk on the beach without paying. So finding that happy medium, you know, when we schedule the weekends the same way. When it rains or the weather's, you know, less than nice, you hope that a lot of people call in sick that day. You hope that, you know, hey, you know, the supervisor that was looking to take off, hey, you still want that day off? You give them the day off. I mean, Commissioner Walsh, I'll speak, you know, the police specials, you know, their days off are designed during the week, and so that they're all available on Saturday and Sunday. And we kind of try to do the same thing, you know, from a supervisory staff. I want all my supervisors available on Saturday and Sunday. And if it's sunny and beautiful, they more than earn their money. And if it's partly cloudy, job's a little easier that day. But there's not a big difference between, you know, the lifeguards, it's contractual. With us sending people home, it's pennies.
You look like you got a question, because I wrote down a bunch of questions in no particular order that were going in through the presence. So before we get, I guess, into a more philosophical discussion, just some, the people on Nevada south of Beach, why do they get free beach passes?
All right, Long Beach history lesson. Many, many years ago, the story is the people that live on Nevada Street at the south end purchased a piece of property across the street from them to use as personal parking spots for each of the houses that are on Nevada Street. When the city was constructing, I guess, the fence and bulkhead to eliminate beach access, or to, I guess, coordinate beach access, they wanted to obviously extend their fence to the end of the property line on the parking area that they own. So a deal was cut with those people that they would allow the city to extend their fence across their property line, but they would get free beach passes to access the beach.
I bet you it was a handshake deal.
I'd be willing. I don't even know if there was paper and pen around in the days that this deal was made, but but that's the story.
Going with no.
At least the one that's been passed down from beach park manager to beach park manager.
All right. The auxiliary police and the volunteer firefighters, do they get free individual passes or family passes?
It's a list that's generated by the fire commissioner, and it's based on whether or not that firefighter is married or not. So if they're married and they have children, they get a resident family. If they're a single individual, they get an individual pass.
Okay. Why are the hotels allowed to buy beach passes for $54? They're paying less than residents.
$54.
That's what it says in the presentation.
Okay, now two different hotels. The hotel, Long Beach Hotel, what they do is they buy beach passes, the economy passes, at the resident rate. It's easier for them to do individual passes. The Alegria Hotel, this year was a negotiated fee based on what they paid annually in years past. So what we had experienced with the Alegria was a number of issues with us giving them hotel passes, okay, selling them to them at resident family rates, and they had issues internally with getting these beach passes back. So what happened was they reached a point 2 summers ago where we didn't have any more hotel passes left. So what we did was we started initiating an economy pass rate similar to what the Long Beach Hotel does. And Mr. McNally, you may be able to elaborate on this, but prior to last summer, we sat down with the new management team at the Alegria and worked out an agreement where they'd be paying. I don't recall it being 54, but we negotiated a set fee for the passes for their 688 rooms or occupancy, and that anything that they lost or needed to come back for beyond that, they were going to have to pay non-resident rates for. Thankfully, I'm happy to report that the new management at the Alegria was able to secure the passes and clean up whatever issues they had with their guests returning beach passes, and we had absolutely no issues this summer.
So the question was, why are they $54? The $54 is a calculated number because I know that we had generated $37,152 worth of revenue from the hotel sale of hotel season passes, and we've distributed 688. So I would assume that maybe some of the passes were given to them at the end of the season when the original ones they lost.
All right, so it sounds like there was a deal struck to give them, sounds like a fixed fee based on they have an occupancy, they can fit X number of people, and a fixed fee.
That's exactly what it was.
But it still seems like they're paying less than the residents to get on the beach for non-residents. Am I wrong?
I don't recall them getting a rate less than what residents pay. Included in a lot of those passes were, passes that kids would use that normally wouldn't pay for them because it's a hotel pass. So anybody over the age of 13 has the same hotel pass. There's a discrepancy in what some of the costs would be for the adults that are using them. The cost would be for some of the kids that are using them, and the median became there that number that we negotiated, where it kind of take into consideration both. Do I want to say that there's some good faith involved in terms of our desire to have a successful hotel in town? Yeah, but it wasn't at the expense of anybody else.
So the hotel also sells beach parking. You go by there and they have $50 for beach parking. Does beach parking include a pass to get on the beach?
No,
Okay,
not according to the Alegria.
okay, good. I know you got questions too, Karen.
Okay.
I'm told they eliminated the beach parking this year.
Okay, I saw the sign out over the summer, but,
Yeah, I think that once we met with them and the new management took over, one day, John, you and I were out there counting the number of stickers, and so we called the police over. So we just said that every car we saw that had, where they were charging $50 was going to get a ticket. And
Well,
then the Alegria would be responsible for paying that ticket because the customer paid them $50. All of a sudden, it started to go down.
well, they would charge them $50 and then putting the cars in public parking spots. So they weren't using their parking garage, they were putting them on
No, that's-
spots on the street.
That's what I'm saying.
That's what, right,
Yeah,
so,
because they don't have enough parking even for the hotel.
wow, that, I sympathize, that's not our
And
problem.
part of the negotiation with the hotel pass itself and getting away from the economy pass that's no different than the economy passes that the people in town would purchase, was the previous management group. I couldn't tell you for sure that they weren't selling beach parking for $50 and what they may have been selling those beach passes for, because once they get to the booth at National Boulevard, the attendants at the gate there have no idea whether they're guests at the Alegria or somebody that just purchased the pass at the trailer on Laurelton. So, there was a desire on both our parts to obviously give the new management group there the benefit of the doubt, and it worked. So,
Okay.
All right, first off, I'd like to say, wow, what an excellent job by the staff. Just fabulous. I mean, this is exactly the type of analysis that previous council members probably would have benefited from. And you did a lot of heavy lifting to get us up to this point where it's actually understandable, and it's much appreciated. So thank you. The big takeaway for me is that we're $1 million short for this budget. So let's get that clear. We are $1 million short for this budget right now. After that, I just want to say, if you go back to the videotape back this spring, I did say we were too aggressive in our non-resident projections. And again, now we're dealing with the consequences of that. So having this analysis is exactly at the right time as we go into the next budget season. After that, I will just, not for answer right today. As far as military passes, my brother is a major in the Air Force Reserves. I think his kids get passes too. So you might want to double check that on the discount. For 2023, I'd like the staff to consider the impact of the Engelberman construction on the beach park, especially as you look at the projections for tickets by specific category and how you're going to be moving everybody around. After that, I'd like to see some new advertising approaches, maybe. Not just going to the same old folks or putting out an RFP, getting some more innovative advertising. There's a lot of creative people, even at Long Beach. Like I always look at Shines and how they do some awesome, quirky advertising. But I'm just saying maybe we should put out an RFP to get some new ideas. And then finally, I just want to say, I know the answer to our challenges is in this room, and that's the staff. So keep up the great work, and it's hard, but it's really appreciated. Thanks.
Thank you.
So, Liz, you have any questions?
Karen said it all. Thank you,
Okay,
Karen.
so I think we need probably to have a conversation. We're not going to answer all the questions tonight, but I guess there's two components to this: is how do we potentially better either streamline or allocate resources to run the beach in a more economical manner, and how do we better monetize the beach? I know there's been like different ideas tossed around. Like I said, we're not going to solve them all here. One Donna and I have discussed numerous times is we know at 6 o'clock or just before 6 there are large crowds waiting on the boardwalk to get on the beach, and they get on at 6 for free. Could we consider, and of course they go on at 6 when the lifeguards go off, which exasperates the issue. Could we look at maybe, I'm going to guess, I'm probably going to, it's not a rhetorical question, but I pretty much know what the answer is going to be. Do you have data on when beach passes are sold time-wise during the day? Do you gather that kind of info? Like, the peak hour is, 11 to 12, or I'm assuming, I'm going to guess no. But
yeah, in season, that would
maybe
be
with the electronic
in
passes
season,
you could do
yeah,
it.
we could provide something like that based on pickups that occur. I mean, most of it.
But I think it's probably safe to assume not a lot of people are buying $15 walk-on passes at 4:30 in the afternoon.
No, no. I mean, I most of the judging that I do, I utilize the railroad and the crowds that come off of there.
Yeah.
Like, you know, and on any Saturday or Sunday morning, I stop and watch the 8:43 train get off. I can tell by the volume on that train what kind of day we're going to have. 9:43 comes, and then, you know, I don't have to tell you, 10:43, 11:05, those two trains come, you know, and that's the peak time, you know.
Yeah.
In that 11 to, I'd say, 1:30 time frame, that's when you're getting the bulk of your big daily sales. At the end of the day, on Monday through Friday, people will sit and wait.
Right, so could there be any value in potentially offering a deeply discounted pass late in the day so people can still come on the beach when there's lifeguards, say at 4 o'clock? I don't know what the figure is. I'm just randomly going to throw out $5.
Okay.
You know, at starting at 4, they can get on for $5, which gives them 2 hours with a lifeguard. And,
Something certainly.
and if we're already not selling anything or very little during that time, might it be a way to potentially generate additional revenue? Because maybe people won't wait until 6 then.
I'm looking for some big ideas to equal $1 million.
Two birds there, though. I mean, you know, there is the issue of people waiting till 6 o'clock and going swimming after the lifeguards are off duty. So if it addresses even a portion of those people, it's something to consider. And the other part of it is something's better than nothing. If we're there until 6 o'clock and you see people sitting on the benches at each ticket booth waiting till 6 o'clock before they go on the beach, maybe there is a price point that makes it, you know, enough of a value for them to say, hey, I'll spend the $6 and go on now.
But before I forget, I want to mention that in my household, there's only 2 of us. So we buy 6 passes a year with no proof of residence, with just one license. So we buy 6 passes, and it's usually like $160. So that math doesn't work. So basically, if I...
No, what it is you're entitled to purchase up to 3 resident family packages.
Maybe that needs to change.
That's the math that needs to change.
So that was my next idea to
Because
discuss.
I'm sorry, John. In years past, I'd go to the gazebo and buy my passes. I would buy one family pass because there was just me and my significant other. And then so a person was in front of me and she bought 3 family packs. I'm like, oh. And the person selling said, oh, you're entitled to 3. So then I would buy 3 so for my guests that would come. So I'm pretty much cheating our own system.
Unless you're like me, and in my household you have my wife and 4 children, and youngest
And they're
being
over the age of 18.
So I buy for myself and my wife,
Right.
my oldest, and then my 2 youngest.
So-
I would require 3.
Instead of
So-
having 3, let's try and maybe we can talk about just limiting it to 2, and then you would have to buy individual passes.
So to that point, right, could we consider, again, we're not going to solve it tonight, but just, again, tossing ideas around. You could buy a family pass, which would give you, in your case, let's say 4, if you have the kids under 16. If you can prove residency of others, again, you can get it at a family pass rate. But a lot of us, I do it. I buy extras. Karen buys extras.
Yeah, I mean, you got to
for
look
our
at
guests.
end result here is what? Because at the end of the day, we don't have the technology. If John Bendo goes to the ticket office on Laurelton Boulevard and buys 2 resident family passes, and he really wants 6, well, he can leave there, go to the gazebo,
Exactly.
buy 2 more, because we don't have any type of,
But we do have technology.
I mean, if we're willing to spend it, for something like that, then by all means.
Well, the other point.
But the thing is, if the predominant way to buy tickets is online, then you can't get around it.
No, the predominant way for residents is not going to be
Correct.
online.
The predominant way
They
for
want
seasonal
the pass.
They want
passes
the
is in
cards.
person.
They actually want the pass.
Right, but
Yeah.
they could still prove, but now they don't have to prove the number of people in the household.
Yeah, it's technology that we have to work through, that I could tell you that we need to work through, but it won't happen next summer. Because part of what we asked FRB for was electronic beach passes, money for that. And that technology is not, we're not quite there yet. So that ideally, if you went to one place and you showed your ID, they put everything into a system, so it didn't matter where you went after that. In that system, when you showed your ID again, they say, oh no,
No,
you've
maxed
already
out.
purchased this pass.
Right.
We won't get there in the next 4 months, because we saw how long it took us to get to the electronic beach passes, and it was not flawless. We had a lot of problems. So we have to perfect what we have and then move on from that and build another
I guess the
platform.
point being, though, if I'm buying extra family passes for my guests, should I get it at the resident rate? Maybe not the non-resident, but should there be something in between where I got to pay a little extra for that extra family pass for my friends, not for family members? You
I
know,
mean, that's the
if
intent of,
they're-
that's
if they're
the
act-
intent of the economy pass.
Right,
where
if they're
you can-
actual Long Beach residents, then they should be able to get the family pass.
Mm-hmm.
But if I'm buying it for my friends to come to visit, you know, maybe I should pay a little extra for that family pass for
But-
the non-residents.
But honestly, if I had a one-sheet email, or if I got an email that says this is how it works, you know, as a council member, I'd probably do it, you know, because it's the right thing to do.
Yeah, I mean, an entire system predicated on people being ethical, right? Like, so, I mean, again, the end result, I mean, can we step up, you know, demands for what, you know, we make people prove that they have children in their household.
Right.
Is the next step for me to prove that I have 6 adults in my household in order to purchase the additional 2 adult passes. So, I mean, there's one step. You know, is there a way to connect the 2 offices where people can't buy in one place and come to the other? You know, again, there's a lot of moving parts there, and I'm gotta
Well, it's an
believe
easy
a lot
solution
of
if
them
we
are
had an-
expensive
Right.
moving
If we had an
parts that-
IT system a central IT system that tracked the passes.
Dave Frazier
that-
has researched more of those systems than anybody I know, Dave, right?
Another thing, and it's...
Even back when I was working at Beach Park as a kid.
Yeah, and another thing that's sort of related to this too is how do we keep people from handing off beach passes?
It was difficult
it's
before
far
the
too
inception
easy.
of the cell phone. Now, it's almost impossible. And that was another one of the
Well, it's not
great
impo-
hopes with the electronic beach pass was instead of you carrying 10 passes up, it's going to be a little more obvious when you're carrying 10 cell phones up. So
Well, no, I understand that, but I mean, we make it awful easy by giving everyone a plastic card because, you know, I've done it, I'll admit it, you know.
$15, of course
Right.
we've done it.
You know, you go down, 4 people go down on the beach, somebody comes off with the other 3. You know, we've seen, there was once, this summer, somebody was throwing them over the dune on a football. They had them tied to a rubber band to a football.
Taped to a football,
And
yeah.
was taped to the football and was throwing them over the dune to their friends.
I let them on just because I thought that was pretty ingenious.
I mean, it's ingenious. I give him credit.
I'm
But, you know,
teasing.
obviously we're losing money there.
Yep.
So, I mean, I'd like to see some suggestions to try to close that loophole. And maybe and it may not happen this summer, but maybe it's moving away from the plastic cards and going to some other form, whether it's some kind of digital pass, you know, or something. You go to Costco and you get a plastic card, but it's got your picture on it. And, you know, or the county leisure pass. I have a county leisure pass. It's got my picture on it. Now, again, there's probably a cost involved with doing it, but then you got to weigh the cost versus what you may pick up
Didn't we used to
closing the
have
cheating.
Those wristbands, not those white things that you attach to the thing, but
The tags
the tag with
Yeah.
the little taggy thing.
showing your age.
But how many,
I am showing my age.
how many,
Well,
Well, do you remember the little tickets?
I
Rip
remember
out
those too,
tickets,
and I
yep.
remember writing, when you signed off the beach, you had to write your name. And I used to sign Elizabeth Taylor.
Again, it's end result here. I mean, there has been the philosophy amongst other administrations where, the money's green, no matter how it's coming in, and you take as much of it as you can get. We're not motor vehicle. We're not looking to make this a difficult procedure, particularly for our residents. We want to keep people happy. We want, Karen McGinnis to be able to buy beach passes so when her relatives or friends come down, they can go down to the beach. Again, the beach was once a relatively quiet and well-respected place for where everybody that was using it, obeyed the rules of the Ocean Beach Park, and we didn't have any problems. And I think what happens now is, look at the amount of people that come down here to rent for the summer, the amount of people that are living. I mean, the problem just, it goes on and goes into so many different areas that to single out the beach, we're looking, okay, how do we make more money? And like anything else, we've got to eliminate costs, and we've got to eliminate waste, and we've got to figure out ways to, to eliminate invisible hands, right? What are the invisible hands that are taking money away, whether it's internally or externally, that we can kind of corral a little bit, whether that's through Beach Park, whether that's through the police department, or I guess more a collaborative effort to try and corral, whatever gate crashing's going on, and whatever passes are being purchased that are being purchased with not the intent that they were designed for. I mean, to your point, Karen.
So that's another one I wanted to bring up regarding the gate crashers, for lack of a better term. We put these 15-year-old kids at the gates. I mean, it's sort of been, and it's not necessarily a bad thing, but it's sort of been a jobs program for a lot of the kids, and because they do need summer jobs. That's true, but it's obviously has a financial impact as well. Might we be better served hiring additional specials and rotate specials through checking beach passes? They don't have to spend the whole day there. Maybe they they rotate through during the course of the day. But put a older, I don't want to say more responsible, but a more diligent person in those booths.
Look, a uniformed presence with a ticket book at their disposal is going to have a much greater effect on somebody trying to get on the walk through, somebody telling them you need a beach pass, than a 14-year-old kid who's making, $8 an hour.
Right.
You know what I mean?
We've all seen them walk past the kids. We've all seen it.
Yes. And then for me to sit here and tell you that it doesn't happen,
And some of the people, they
can't do it.
intimidate the kids. I've seen it.
No, I mean, what the kids were subject to 2 summers ago in the summer of COVID was absurd. And it wasn't just the kids. I mean, McNally and I would go down and shut down a beach, and I mean, it was what we were up against. And, and we were losing kids left and right. Kids getting cursed out. Their parents would find out they got cursed out during the day. Say, he's not coming back, or she's not coming back. So, yes, a uniform presence always has an effect. The fact that if you decide to walk past them, they can now walk down and give you a summons, or have you removed from the beach, issue you a summons, and make you buy that beach pass. The 14-year-old kid, the only thing he can do is, try to identify that person, let a supervisor know that there was an illegal entry. It's the guy over there in the red shorts. The specials come down and take the guy in the red shorts off the beach, and now what happens with the guy in the red shorts and the ticket taker that just reported him? So it's, yes, the police special at every booth would be great. Is it realistic, Ron?
Yeah, Ron, is
No.
something like that?
We had a very difficult time this year, even getting 35 of them, and we were trying to get 45. So people doesn't mean we can't try, can't be never. But that also comes with substantial.
So again, and we've run into this. Why can't we deputize the auxiliary police? We bring in an 18-year-old kid, effectively deputize them, but we don't deputize our own auxiliary police.
So the auxiliary police are
Right.
We're gonna run into a CSEA issue there, and also, the auxiliary police, we have 8.
So, but I want to say, if you're saying to add specials for each booth, now you need to figure out what revenue you're going to bring in to offset.
No, actually, what I'm saying is, rather than put the 15-year-old kids in the booths, don't put them there.
But you're still
Put specials.
increasing the
Well,
expenses.
the pay, obviously, the pay
Yeah.
is more, but in theory, the gain in revenue that you lose by people just walking past the kids, it should hopefully pay for that.
Well, how much do we actually lose by the people going?
Well, that's
through?
the problem, because we just give,
We don't know.
we don't know, because we don't collect that kind of data, you know, that's the problem. We don't have data to make these informed decisions. We're taking best guesses.
So also, when we get information like that, when we do get a lot of information like that during the days in the summer when the beach is open, our specialists then do a sweep.
Right, yeah, I get that. They do the beach sweeps. Right.
They get them one way, they either run off the beach, or they get a ticket, or they go overnight. So generally speaking, I'm not so sure the shrinkage, if you want to call it that, the loss of revenue is going to be as dramatic as the cost, as Daniel was saying,
yeah.
of actually hiring that many more specialists. And, you're talking about, I don't know what the clerks make in the booth, but the specialists are making, I think it's $15 an hour.
Thought it was 18 an hour or something like that, right? 18. And the booth kids get what, 750?
The ticket takers, yeah.
Yeah, they get 750.
So basically, what you're saying is for the cost of the pass in 2 hours,
You're adding $10 an hour is what
But-
you'd be adding, yeah.
But I think,
To
Joe,
every booth.
That's a lot.
Joe, I think to your point, we're losing some of the fun to go to the beach here, right? It's not, it's like so you say, like, there's a balance of over-regulation.
It shouldn't be this complicated. I agree with you. Like,
Well, that's the point.
here's the
Very-
rules. You have to pay to go onto the beach. You have to pay to go to the movie theater. You have to pay to go to the Yankee game. Like everything, there's a cost associated with it. And years ago, you used to be able to sneak into a Ranger game or a movie theater, but I don't think you're pulling it off now. But short of us putting up turnstiles, cameras, razor wire, or whatever else you want to put up at those beach entrances, it's
And for what?
again, end result, and
Yeah.
again, a system predicated on people being ethical, where I don't mind paying for something that I'm going to use.
So it's striking that balance of where we make it difficult enough for them to pull these stunts.
100%.
So a person with a few kids is much better at that than me. So I'm glad you're in charge.
No problem.
Well, could we, like I said, we're not solving this all tonight.
Nope.
None of these are new issues.
Right.
We've been knowing about these for a long time. But what I'd like to see is we keep talking about it, but we're not trying stuff. Obviously the electronic beach passes are new, but generally speaking, it's kind of, it's that old saying, insanity's doing the same thing over and over and expecting a different result. So could we, potentially, you guys are going to brainstorm on some of these issues. Maybe by the end of January or something, get some ideas on some things we could try this summer. Like I said,
We're open to
whether
anything.
it's closing loopholes or cutting costs or better monetize. Could we have more sponsored events on the beach? Sandcastle building contests and things like that.
So to that point, I guess I would say is that I support more ideas, even if it causes some missteps or mistakes. I support you. But we are going to learn from those mistakes, and we're going to get better and better and better.
That's like anything else. Make a decision, stand behind it. If it works out, it works out.
Yeah, we're kind of at the point where, look, we're losing $500,000 a year on the beach. That means we either got to jack up the ticket prices again, or we got to raise taxes on people.
Well, I got it like an immediate one that we will run by you, and this was the city manager's idea, is selling beach passes as a Christmas gift.
Yeah,
And-
that was an interesting idea.
And honoring this year's prices, because based on Ina's presentation. Looks like beach pass prices may see an increase, so you want to get them nice and early now and put them in your stocking stuffers. We can honor this year's prices.
I've been saying that for years because people do that. They would buy, you buy a polar bear sweatshirt, you buy the beach pass, you wrap it up in a ribbon.
That would be a good Christmas
We're,
gift.
we're close. We're close
would be-
on it,
yeah.
and it's something
So, I
that we're
mean,
hopefully going to announce in short order. But we're going to try and pull it off for this year.
Yeah, I guess let's just start thinking outside the box on different things we can try.
We've sat down and we've done a lot of brainstorming about what we can and cannot do, and then we'll come back and think, okay, that'll work. Actually, the Christmas card thing wasn't, I don't think that was my idea, but, or I heard somebody say it, but I just thought that it was something good
I
that
think it was Liz.
you can put into, I think it was a staff member who actually had mentioned it to us in a meeting, that you can put it into a stocking. We give them a card saying, when the beach passes go on sale, you bring this card, they're numbered, so we have to go get a system so we can track it. But we have sat down and talked about a lot of ideas. We will come back in January and talk about the ideas that we vetted, that we think that will work. Because we have had ideas that at the end of the day, it was like, no, I don't think that's going to work.
And all of my staff is,
Yeah.
they're not working now, too. So in terms of
I just
full-time
have-
staff members at the beach park.
I just have another point that I would like to see being brought forward to the residents is that this is not a moneymaker, that the beach has never been a moneymaker, and we've been misguided, and we need to change everyone's attitude that the beach is not going to save us. Is that possible in some way or form?
Look, I
Without
mean,
being
the,
so-
the,
without
the
being
proof is in the
too
numbers.
depressing?
I mean, I think the way, the money comes in, it's a lot of money that comes in a really short period of time, and I guess the excitement of being able to use that money to caulk holes in a boat is alluring, or something that people think may go a lot further than it actually does.
Right.
But again, give credit to Ina and my staff
Yes,
with the numbers
thank you.
they've put together that I think there's proof now, particularly, it was always just beach park pass sales. Like Ina and I have numerous conversations about the amount of money that, say, beach volleyball leagues and what the beach activities bring to the table in terms of revenue, but what are the costs associated with them running as well. So it's not just beach ticket sale prices, but
Right.
it's the beach park as a whole, getting back to that whole idea of people using it for industry.
Right.
We should be getting our fair share in that regard as well.
Right, the
If it's
boardwalk
gonna
fairs
cost
are a
us money,
perfect example.
Yep.
We should be getting something out of doing those boardwalk
Well, especially
fairs.
because there's a lot more people using the boardwalk than the residents of Long Beach. So,
Right.
Well-
for the taxpayer to have to bear the brunt of all the boardwalk repairs, it's,
I always want to make the point that it was a federally funded
Yes.
project. So my sister-in-law in Illinois, I always say thank you for our boardwalk.
Liz, you just asked a question. Is there a way we can tell the public, yes, there will be a way,
Okay.
that we will be able to show people, this is what it costs, this is the revenue we bring in, and this is what it costs, whether it's a pie chart or not.
Right. Because
I
the
was-
numbers don't lie. People
Yeah.
lie, numbers don't lie.
I was in a community, and they had a big billboard. And on this billboard, they had different categories, different pie charts to say, this is your tax dollars. And then they said, so one of them would be, this is how much we make on beach revenue. This is how much it costs us for the beach. And then it would say, we're losing money. So what they were doing, and this billboard was up in a couple of different places, what they were doing was they were educating the people in the community on how their dollars were spent.
Right.
And I thought that was really an ingenious idea so that people can't say they didn't know. Now, we're not going to put up billboards to do that, but there are ways that we can put up in our categories what it cost us outside of our budget, putting the budget book even whether it's just with graphs or something that people can easily read. This is what we take in, and this is what we spend, and we can show it by category. So yes, there is a way that we can show people that this is what we bring into the beach park, and these are the expenses that go to taking care of the beach park, and this is the bottom line.
But it's also that the residents seem to not be aware of where their tax dollars go, because they're saying, some are saying, why do I have to pay a fee for the beach? It should be in my taxes.
Well, we can show where their tax dollars go as well.
Yes,
Yeah.
thank you.
Yeah, without a doubt.
Joe, do we tend to spread our resources pretty evenly across the beach, even though the beach goers aren't necessarily evenly distributed, right? In other words, we know that the West End and the East End beaches tend to be more crowded often in the center, especially this past summer, than the center of town. You know, the center of town beaches tended to be a lot sparser. But I'm assuming we allocate kind of the resources evenly, lifeguards and ticket takers are evenly distributed.
I mean, I don't want to use the word demographics, but traditionally in the West End, there's a lot less of daily ticket pass sales
Right.
because most of the people going to beach. So there's less of a requirement at the ticket booth. That said, there's probably a little bit more of a requirement in terms of law enforcement, just because a lot more going on the beaches down in the West End that requires maybe an extra or extra personnel from the police department. In the center of town, you have the exact opposite, where the flow of traffic off of the Long Island Railroad, and for people that are driving in and parking on the Foundation block or somewhere in the center of town where there's more ample parking, we're inundated at the booth. And as you say, the crowd is a little bit sparser on the beach, requiring a little bit less beach personnel. The lifeguards, Chief Gillespie will tell you, they have their own set of rules with how many guys have to be in certain chairs. But I mean, you go to Central Crew on a busy day, and there are in the chairs on the shore at the jetty. When there's that many people at the beach. It's allocated appropriately.
Okay.
And to that effect, even if we have a large group coming, if I get a call from a camp that's bringing 150 kids down on a Wednesday afternoon, I have to specifically set that up with Chief Gillespie as to where they're going, set it up with the police department where they're parking, and to make sure that obviously we're putting the kids in the water and there's enough lifeguards to keep them safe.
All right. You got any more questions? Liz?
No, I just wish it was summer.
Yeah. Don't we all?
I truly appreciate everyone's, it was great work. Thank you.
Yeah, thanks, Joe. Thanks, Ina. I mean, like I said, it's, I guess we're finally seeing the reality of what everybody thought, at least as far as financially, how the beach did, and the reality have been two very different things. All right, it's like 8:15. I think we've covered enough. So why don't we call it quits here? And thanks for coming. And
Thank you, Eileen.
To be
and Tina,
continued.
online spectators. With this song, we might be live.